And we are live.
We are live. Hello, good morning, everybody. It is episode 6 of the Outdoor Cameraman Experience. I am Jess Lorenzo, and we have Jake Latondras, and we are Latondras Media Collective. Um,
Good
so,
morning, Jess.
good morning. We're just catching our breath because we were last minute changing things around and setting some scenery up, and things are crashing and falling, and we're tripping over wires, but everything seems to have worked out, and we made it.
We're going to have to do a behind the scenes show at some point and do that
Oh my
live.
gosh. Yeah, I mean, if anybody saw the nest of junk around here right now, it would be really embarrassing.
And lighting, we've been trying to figure out how to come up with a better set, better lighting, and to make this look a little bit more pleasing, and just trying to improve the show. And you don't
Yeah,
understand
we
the
should
30 minutes.
do a poll today. So, whoever likes Jake's better with the cool rock concert lighting, or if you like this like museum thing I've got going on. So we'll do like a vote.
I cheated because I took the Lee Chose interview and I looked at his set. And I'm like, man, he looks like he's like backstage with Allman Brothers. So I cheated and took some ideas from his set and just sort of lit things up a little bit differently. So we'll see how it goes. Vote
I
for
like it.
me. Vote for me.
I feel like if I come over to your set right now, I'd be hanging out, listening to some music, and then like I'd go back to that bar scene you have in the back and use
That's
my
where
drink
everybody
ticket.
goes back there. Yeah.
Well,
So we've got a great show today, eh?
we do have a good show today. We've got Bill Buckley, a professional photographer based out of Montana. He's got some super awesome work, and he's got a really interesting kind of like portfolio of just like really awesome natural light all the way through these really dramatic post images that are really impressive. So it'll be cool to talk to him about that.
Yeah, Bill's been around for a long time. He certainly, when the age old question comes up, who's your favorite photographer, outdoor guy, particularly waterfowl and wildlife? Bill's name is always up there in the top votes, and yeah, he's been around a long time. It's someone that I looked up to. We met a long time ago in a swamp in Arkansas, which we're going to talk about. So
A lot
yeah,
of your
looking forward to
stories
it.
start in the swamp somewhere.
Imagine that. I spent too much time in Arkansas.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll bring him in a couple of seconds here. So let's all say hi to Bill Buckley.
Hey guys,
Hey,
how are you?
Hey,
good. Thanks
hey.
for joining us today.
Well, thank you. I'm just hoping my lab Annie doesn't interrupt us all the time.
We could get him a camera. I can get another guest on the show.
How old's your dog?
11.
Oh
11.
man.
It looks like I feel a lot of the mornings I wake up. I can be turning 60 this year. That's depressing.
Oh man, they start adding up quickly. You have children?
No, well, yes, Annie.
All right, there you go.
All my dogs are my kids. No, I don't. I've never been married. So for the reasons that you may find apparent after this interview or during.
Well, I have to tell the story about how we met, Bill, because what year was that? 2005, 2006, something like that.
Something like that. Look at that young man.
Oh no, that was last year. No. No, so Bill and I met. We were on a wildlife management area called Dagmar in Arkansas, and we were doing a shoot for R&T. Bill was shooting the photos, and I was shooting the video. Bill Cooksey was there. Jim Ronquist, Jimbo was there. Uh-oh. My phone just rang. I just broke my own rules. And we had a very interesting character there who was really our guide because he lives in that area and he knows Dagmar really well in the Tupelo Swamp. And the guy's name is Coon Foot. It's really Jeff Robinson, but we all call him Coon Foot. And, Bill and I were talking before the interview that we really need to talk about him because he's such an interesting character. And I thought we would talk about how he got his name, Coon Foot.
I was just briefed on this story earlier. It was pretty funny. Well, not really. It's like not funny and funny.
I'll leave that to Jake, but all I can say is you don't forget a shoot when you have a guy along named Coon Foot. And he was a great model too.
He's a great guy. But I have to tell you this. So it's kind of like this really interesting story because when not too many years ago, his brother accidentally shot him in the foot with a 12 gauge on a duck hunt. Like I think they were loading the guns in the boat, and there were some safety issues, and kaboom, the gun goes off, and he literally shot him at point blank range right in the middle of his foot. So he gets rushed to the emergency room, and he goes into surgery to repair his foot, and it's a huge mess. And so when they're doing the skin grafts, in the final touches of his foot, they skin graft skin from the back of his calf and maybe the back of his hamstring. I can't remember exactly, but then they graft it to the top of his foot. And when they reconstructed his foot, it shrunk it down. And now he's got all this calf and leg hair growing on the top of his foot, and his toes are all scrunched together, and he looks like a coon foot. I mean,
I never knew the gory details. I'm not sure I really wanted to, but
yeah. So we were in a boat. We weren't in a pirogue, but we were in a boat in a swamp somewhere. And I said, man, why do they call you Coon Foot? So he goes, come on over here, man. We got in the boat, and if you know Coon Foot, you know his voice. He said, man, let me tell you this story about how I got my nickname. And he pulls his boot off and he shows it to me, and I literally thought I was in a movie scene. Oh man. So that's how Bill and I met.
Oh, that's funny. That is funny. No, always have fun things happen in Arkansas. That's all I can say.
No doubt. Do you get down to Arkansas every fall, every winter? Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much every fall. Arkansas, Tennessee. Yeah, it's funny. People always assume that I travel the world and go all over these exotic places. Now, where do you go? South Dakota, Arkansas, Mississippi. Okay. Talk to you later.
I just got down to Arkansas for the first time with Jake this year, and I wasn't really sure what to expect. But it's beautiful. It
is. It's wonderful, and I always have I have a lot of friends in Arkansas and Tennessee, and I always have a great time. So, I love going down. But I don't know. Last couple of times, it's just killed me. I've been right after like 7 inches of rain over 2 days or 3 days, and just changed the hunting and everything. It's been really tough.
Oh, that throws everything off.
Oh, it does. But thank God I have friends down there because it's always fun. So,
right. It's like once every 10 years in Arkansas, you get the right amount of water to accomplish what you're trying to do. Otherwise, there's way too much or no water at all.
You're right. You're right. That's the vagaries of photographing duck and goose hunting for sure. Yeah, weather. So.
How did you get started in shooting waterfowl and shooting professionally?
Well, actually, it's kind of funny. I came to Montana as a magazine editor for a magazine called Shooting Sportsman, which is now out of Maine. And 2 years here, and about halfway through building this house, I ended up getting a call saying we've sold the magazine and to Down East Enterprise.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh! I thought I was going to have to pound nails for a living, and I started photographing a bit. I sort of played with a camera here and there, and my first job in the outdoors was with Harris Publications in New York, and my first week I ended up getting to meet my idol, who was Leonard Lee Rue. Lenny Rue.
Wow.
And he was when I was growing up, he was the wildlife photographer. He had written 2 books, one book on whitetails, one on raccoons, speaking of Coon Foot. And I was obsessed with both those things. And back when I was growing up, whitetails were really, there's nothing like they are today in terms of population. And so it was, so to be able to come on board and meet him after I just got back into photography again was really exciting. He's a personality that matches the legend sort of. I mean, he's just a huge personality. So it was a lot of fun. But yeah, so
that's inspiring to you to get into to dig deeper into photography.
Yeah, from wildlife standpoint, and then it's like rough grouse. I'm always been obsessed with rough grouse, and so I was trying to get rough grouse pictures, and couldn't understand how he got them. And because rough grouse, even when I was there at 4 a.m. trying to get near a drumming log, they would flush, and you wouldn't see them the rest of the day. And of course, now here in Montana, right below my house, I photograph rough grouse, and they're just a different bird. They're not as spooky, and some birds are really tolerant of you. And I remember when I was building a blind once, and I was pounding stakes in this blind, and all of a sudden I hear whoop, 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 whoop. And I look up, and there's 10 yards away is this rough grouse just drumming. I said, "Gosh, I don't need this blind." It was wonderful.
That's awesome.
But anyway, so I actually, it's funny. I started photography because I was interested in it, but more importantly, I was flat out. I needed to make a living, and so I started writing articles and photographing, and then I ended up getting sort of hooked up with Ducks Unlimited through a publisher, and I suggested, wanted to do a book. My best friend had encouraged me to do a book on waterfowling. I said, "Well, that's a good idea." And from there, I got to Ducks Unlimited was going to sponsor the book, and from there, it really just took off. But I have Ducks Unlimited to thank, and my best friend to thank, for pretty much my career. I mean, seriously. So, yeah.
Sure.
I've always had a close relationship with them. In fact, after this, I have to start calling up madly, trying to get an interview or two for my DU column that's due at the end of the week. So they haven't done a darn thing about it yet.
taking it to the wire, are you?
Always. Writing is a painful endeavor for me, and so I always put it off till the last moment. So.
Well, when you've been doing it as long as you have, you figure out how to get that done in a short amount of time, right? Yeah, it always works out.
Or you know how to sweet talk an editor for a few extra days. It's going to be more likely the case. So yeah, but anyway, so it's been good. So yeah, I did a lot of stuff in waterfowling, and I wrote a lot about big bow hunting and big game hunting, and then waterfowling too. So that sort of got me started. And every year, sort of cycled between how much photography and how much writing, or what combination of that it is. So yeah, so this year will probably be more writing, and a lot more writing. And then last year was pretty chock full of photography. So it just depends on the year. Sort of a freelancer's existence, sort of up and down. So yeah, but it's all been good. I've met a lot of great people in this business, been able to do what I want. Can't complain. We're pretty lucky people. So yeah.
I was a full-time graphic designer at a newspaper before I took on my full-time photography business. And I bring a lot of the techniques just in composition and things like that into my photography. What kind of things did you bring from your magazine world into your photography career?
Well, I always wish I'd been a graphic designer first, because I think Lee Chose was a graphic designer.
Yeah.
And that helps. I know a lot of really great photographers who were graphic designers first, and that gives me a huge leg up. I think I got a leg up in understanding what good photography was by being a magazine editor. Mm-hmm. So part of my job was to go through at this time tons of sheets of slides and look at different work and try to get work that was germane to the article we were putting together. And we put together a ton, like 20 to 25 magazines a year at Harris Publications. So it was a lot of work, but a crash course. But so, yeah, I think I bring an editor. What I say is I bring an editor's eye to photography from layouts. So I know what layouts, what when you need, how to use negative space for type, how to position things so that you're not getting faces or the important part of whatever a product it is I'm shooting right in the gutter. So just knowing the different uses and how a graphic designer might want to use my work. And one of the things that's really important on commercial shoots and things that you don't normally find out until it's too late, and then you have to do a bunch of Photoshop time. But for instance, things like websites, they bring a whole new sort of list of to-dos, because, for instance, banners. So had a client last year that wanted to have a banner whereby the banner would be revolving on each page, and they wanted the boat to be dead center of the banner each time. So it would be replaced by another scene with a boat right behind it. And so you had to think about shooting stuff with plenty of space on each side. So the more you can get people to open up and go on their websites, clients that is, and get on their websites and see what they need, that you're so far better off. So, but yeah.
I was looking through a lot of the photos that you had sent for us to check out. You guys hearing that?
Yeah, there's an echo. There's a bad echo in the audio.
But you look great. You
look great.
I should learn sign language, and
Let's lip sync. I'll speak, and you just move your lips.
Okay. Anyway, I was looking through a little bit of photos that you had sent us to kind of look over for the show, and your boat photography is just awesome. I just really liked how you used the post process, but didn't make it look overdone. Like you get that speedboat feel, but I mean the composition and just the way you blended everything together just looked really awesome. So I had a couple of those out.
Thank you.
Jess and I were talking about before. I didn't mean to cut. Go ahead, Jess. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to say, can you explain how you're shooting these a little bit? Are you moving with the boats? Because I know like the speed look is a little bit of an editing, but like where are you positioned when you're taking some of these speedboat photos? And how the hell are you getting those images so sharp?
And hey, if we ask you a question that you don't want to dwell into, just say shut
No,
up.
I'm an open book, unfortunately.
Like what's the difficulty in taking stuff like that?
How do you do that, Bill?
Now that shot. So there are different ways you shoot boats. So one is called boat to boat, and so you're on a tower or on deck, low, whatever, and you're driving along with a boat, and you're trying to communicate, getting front quartering, side view, rear quartering shots, and then you drive back and forth until you get the shots. And this was actually what we call a drive-by, where I'm sitting in a boat that's stationary. And this happened to be on a day when the clouds had cleared off. It was a little harsh light. It was on a lake in Texas that had a lot of really bad shoreline, a lot of dead trees, which I hate distracting backgrounds. And so I ended up taking the shot, and I was on vacation in this wonderful place in Florida near Fort Myers, and took pictures of sunrise. And I'm not, for something like this is not an edit. Well, it could be an editorial picture too. I have no problem with that. But for a product shot, if I can make it better and I can make that boat look like it fit into a prettier scene and not have distracting elements or ugly elements in the back, I'm going to do it. So that was actually, I took a scene from Florida and blended it in, and then worked the lighting and everything. And you're right, it did do a little bit of blurring too, because I shot that probably at 1,000th of a second, so everything was tack sharp. But I wanted to make it a little bit more dramatic and help blend it in. That's one of the ways you do it. And also harsher light. Typically, if on a boat to boat, when a boat is coming toward you and moving sideways as well, it's very hard to shoot slow motion and be able to get a sharp picture. So I prefer to shoot and then do post. It's a lot more work, but I have more control over it. And so this has just happened to be a shot where I wanted to say, for a shot like this, I wanted this to be like, this is what you get when you buy this boat. So this is for skeeter boats. And so what I wanted to show is this is the lifestyle, the excitement you can get. And that's, to me, is part of why people hire me is that you want to get what they want, and you have to get the to-do list. You have to get the bread and butter of what they want, but you also want to try to elevate it a little bit and try to get some excitement, things that they may not have thought of. So anyway, it's just a shot I decided to do. I'm always trying to say, well, I wonder if I can do this in Photoshop and do it. So that's fun.
Do you find yourself with a lot of your clients having these conversations of, no, you can't have the raw images because I'm going to give you my edited final products? Like sometimes when I'm dealing with people, it's like a struggle. It's like, I don't want to give you the raw image because that's not how I see the image, because I'm going to take it and do something else to it.
Yeah,
I've had them post my raw images on freaking social media before.
Bold. Sometimes you can do it and get away with it, right? But most
sometimes.
of the time, sometimes you're just going, man, it just depresses me. And it's not. I'll tell you, I make a lot of mistakes as a photographer. When you're doing a shoot and you're trying to get like you're shooting 6 boats in the morning, and you have a list of all the things you have to do. And as the light's getting up and up, it's getting worse and worse. And clients always want you to be shooting as late as possible. Want to get their money's worth out of you. And I understand that, but it's a sort of a self-defeating measure at some point. But so, you're working hard, and you're not always, I shoot manual exposure 99% of the time. Mm-hmm. And so, there are times when the boat turns a certain way, you're looking down and you're trying to keep track of your histogram or your little blinkies. For boats, for instance, I'm looking for, and things like turkeys. I shoot a lot of turkeys around my house. when you have such willing subjects, what the heck, right?
Your turkey photos stand out too.
That's sort of like mine. Woo! You have to keep the highlights from burning out too much. So I shoot with I always shoot with highlights, thinking about them and how much I can push it and get the blinkies enough to where I can still recuperate or recover a lot of detail in there. So for boats, they're the absolute worst. A lot of times they'll be dark sided and they'll have a white gunnel and a white deck while the white's facing the sun, reflecting it. So to give someone raw images, I keep on saying, you don't want me to give you raw images. You want to have my stuff shot in raw, but you want me to process it.
Sure.
I think they think when they pay you. Oops, is that an echo?
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Oh.
What's going on here today?
I don't know.
I think when a client pays you, like you said, they want to get every dime. They want to squeeze every dime out of the project, and it's like, man, that's not how this works. Just because I take 500 photos on a shoot doesn't mean you may get a half a dozen. You may get, nowadays, like we talk about with every guest on the show, with social media being such a strong player in the marketing game now everyone wants 75 to 100 photos included in your brand images or whatever. So there's a lot more work involved for basically the same cost. But client, if anyone's out there and they want to hire any one of us, Bill, Jess, or myself, understand that about 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning, we're going to pack everything up and then we're going to go take a nap.
Well, I'm going to get some food first, so put that in your budget.
Do boats. You'll be going till 11. You get back to the dock. You get all the boats out. You end up putting all the covers on the boats. You drive them out.
Yeah.
You come back and you do the detail shots in the afternoon and hope that it's cloudy. And otherwise, you're holding diffusers, and then you start at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and go till 9:30, and then you get back and have dinner at 10:30, and for the rest of until 12:30, you are downloading images, and then.
That's right. That's right. We are working.
It's crazy, but I love the craziness of it. I love having a crew of people. I've met so many awesome people through it, but I love the collaborating. My biggest, and I love having the client there with me, so I can bounce ideas off. The frustrating part for a lot of shoots is that they want sort of the shotgun approach. So you're shooting. Oh, just shoot what you want. Well, how about we come up with some ideas? Let's come up with like ads. Well, we don't really use too many ads. Okay, let's come up with cattle. Well, we don't really, and you're going, let's come up with ideas and have more creative images. And that's always the tough part is shooting a lot of stuff that really doesn't have that potential for great Photoshop after Effects or whatever you want to put in there. And so you're struggling to find those images that are going to be remarkable. Instead of saying, what do you like about your product? What do you want to emphasize? And then let's go for that and spend less time and get less photography maybe, but get better, more impactful images. And so it's always a struggle. I'm sure you deal with the same thing all the time.
Funny how this conversation comes up with everyone.
There's a lot of, we're having issues today. Hold on. There's a lot of these common themes that there you are, Bill. Sorry about that. As I was telling Jake, there's a lot of
the power to make you go poof.
There's a lot of common themes and a lot of either advice or frustrations that just keep coming up in these shows between everyone that we interview. And a lot of it is just like, one, midday sun sucks. There's a lot of behind the scenes work that's involved. There's a lot more, you need to plan the shoots a lot more than I think that the directors and the brands that we're working for think. Like there's a lot that goes into it. You can't just walk out with your model and your product and be like, okay, do it. Well, what do you want us to do? What is your message?
No, it's true. And that is the hardest thing about, because, and also people not knowing, assuming that Photoshop or well, just think of Photoshop, but thinking that you can correct anything and get any good picture. And also people's just ignorance of what's good light. So if it's clear and sunny, no matter where that sun is, a lot of people think it's awesome light. Well, it's not. So, so yeah, and that's one of the reasons I hate showing anyone raw images or images out of the camera, because.
Yeah. Oh, can I see that? No.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, well, and for instance, you get like Lightroom used to default to Adobe standard color profile, and so I kept on going, gosh, why do my images look so flat on the computer when they look so good on the camera back? Until I started doing a whole bunch of research and Googling, and then, okay, I want to set my Lightroom settings to camera standard. Now Adobe has this Adobe Color as their default in Lightroom, which is sort of my first initial phase of editing, and it's a lot better. It's still not what I want. I want what I see in the camera back. So, but at any rate, so yeah, I hate you can't even represent half the time what you saw, what it actually was on site with an image that hasn't been manipulated in some way. So, but I am a classic case of leaving good enough alone is just something that doesn't resonate with me at all. I mean, I'm all beating the thing to death, which is why I hate every image I ever produced. By the time I'm through with it, half the time I go, wow, you should have cut that back by 50% on the Photoshop work, which I'm sure we've all been there. So.
Oh yeah, I think one of the things that we should take out of this for particularly the young aspiring photographers that might be watching this or will watch it on the download is, let's just face it, every published photo has been manipulated in some form, and it's not anything new that the digital space has provided. That goes way back into print publication. So, there's nothing wrong with manipulating a photo. In fact, it makes everything better. But one thing people should start realizing too is that these things can get overproduced, and it happens all the time. You see it particularly on social media now. A young photographer sees your work or Lee Chose's work or whatever, and they try to duplicate that, and it turns into a disaster. So you want to talk about that some, overproduction?
Yeah, well, the main thing is what I see in social media all the time, and I see a lot, is the use of filter system. So like Nik Software or On One, or there are a whole bunch of them, and any one of those can go. Way overboard, and I see it in our the hunting industry, especially with the whole clarity and the what would be called the HDR look, where the haloing and the grit, and but that unfortunately has plagued our industry, and so. What I love to hear, I remember one editor telling me that he just started working with them, and he said, I love your work. I know you're doing something to this in post, but I can't figure out what it is. And I said, that was the ultimate compliment to me, because, I love Lee Chose's style, and it is Lee Chose's style, without Photoshop, it wouldn't be Lee Chose, right? I mean, it's just so much art. The stuff that he does is not a filter system. I mean, he does just awesome stuff. But what floors me is he also, when you see his less manipulated stuff, like get outside the waterfowl stuff, look at his portraiture and stuff. You go, holy smoke, this guy knows light. He knows how to use a camera, and so that's the whole thing. You can't make up for. You can take a crummy picture and put it on social media when people are looking at it on a cell phone, and it'll look cool. But you take that same one, put it on a full, monitor, a 27 or 30-inch monitor, and you go, oh my gosh, it's, you see all the flaws. So filter systems, I don't use filter systems anymore, because I've run into problems like all of us have, which is something looks good. When you're sitting down there in front of a computer, it's so easy to get swept up and you go, oh, I like that effect. And you're doing different things, even just in camera raw, which I do a lot of stuff in, and you go, oh, I love that effect. I love that effect. And then you get it out and you go, oh my gosh, that's so bad. I'm so glad I saved the original. So,
Yeah, exactly.
actually, what I do a lot is I take the original picture, which is untouched, and I take the one I did that I decided a day later is way overdone, and I move them together and then have a layer, and I take the one I used and reduce it by 50 to 70%, and then the picture looks good. So you have to be, so I don't know, it's just like, developing your own style has a lot to do with the more you understand in Photoshop, which, again, if you're shooting digital, you're a fool not to try to increase your digital manipulation skills as much as possible. I don't think you have to be great at it, but the more you know, the more tools you have at your disposal. You don't necessarily have to use a lot, but you have to fix things that are in the field at times when, let's say, the light is bad, or let's say the light's flat. So had a problem last year where first morning of the shoot, and everyone's all excited. First morning of the shoot is windy like crazy, and it's lead overcast. I mean, lead. And you have horrible backgrounds. I mean, dead pine trees, people's yards with play sets for their kids, and, garbage and old boats. And it was just horrible. Well, what do you do there? You better know how to make a boat look all shiny and new. And so, I even I do a lot of custom brushes, and so I even made one for a glitter for a boat. So to bring back what the client wants. So you can do that stuff. You can rescue a lot of bad shoots and a lot of bad luck that you have no control over. And when you have better Photoshop skills, it doesn't mean you have to use them, but at least you have them in your tool set. So,
Don't you think that, from a progressive standpoint, let's say in phases, a young photographer needs to learn how to shoot properly with the right exposure, so that they're not looking to just shoot something to repair in Photoshop. Get your camera skills down first. Understand that, because that's where you learn in post-production how to manipulate your photos, because you understand what you shot in the first place. Then you move into Photoshop, you learn how to color grade, you learn how to sharpen and do those basic skills. And then you can't buy experience. You can't buy experience with a camera, and you can't buy experience with Photoshop. You have to go in and play with it and learn it over time. And over time, you become a master at what you're doing. Would you not agree with that?
Oh, definitely. I flat out don't shoot as much as I would like. And because whenever I shoot, I learn new things every day. So I shoot, and I'm sure probably everyone else has said the same thing, but I shoot with post-production in mind. So again, for something like boats, knowing that white gunnels are going to be a problem, and decks and whatever, I'm shooting to retain that. I know how much I can pull out of the side of a boat, depending on how dark it is and what the lighting is, and not get too much noise. And I also know ways to control noise. And if I can't control the noise, then I can go to a brush and then add noise in, but control the amount of noise. But anyway, I'm always thinking about, okay, this may not be good light, but here's what I need to protect. And if I can't figure out a way to deal with that light and have a decent picture to begin with, but yeah, you need to learn. That's why I say people need to learn. If you're shooting with an auto exposure setting, I always try shooting, let's say, guys out on water, and they are setting up decoys. So you have a beautiful sunrise coming up. So you're shooting silhouettes, let's say. And so you go in, you shoot a silhouette, wide angle one, and gosh, the colors are awesome in the sky. The guys are jet black, looks great. Then you end up saying, I want to get a closer one. You zoom in, and you have their shaded sides filling the frame, and all of a sudden, the whole sky is just blown out. So you don't have any control, depending on how much of that sky you have in your frame. That's going to affect your exposure. So that's why you set your exposure with manual. If you get used to doing that and constantly checking, I think you're going to have a lot better luck. It's ironic that with digital, which is that retains so much more detail and highlights and shadows, I'm now shooting 95 to 99% manual, whereas when I was shooting slide film, which had basically, if you shot over a third of a stop, under or over, it was a throwaway. I would be shooting in auto exposure mode using AE lock a lot, but still, and then covering my butt by constantly metering off different things and shooting the same thing. But yeah, so it's kind of funny. But yeah, so if you learn the basics first, but like I said, I mean, I'll admit it. My Photoshop skills are partly as a result of making up for times when I wasn't attentive enough in shooting, and I got swept up in the thing and didn't check my camera enough. I mean, the one thing I always tell people, you can in digital, you can solve problems with exposure, and as long as they're not too bad, you can solve a lot of issues there, but you can't solve out of focus. And so motion. And so always, my girlfriend goes on a trip, she comes back, she's all depressed about her pictures because they're all blurry. So, well, okay, look at your shutter speed, 30th of a second, 25th of a second handheld. And you got to check that. So, I mean, that's one of the great things. Listen, I'm what they call it, aping, when you're constantly looking down. I mean, I don't do that in the studio much, because when I'm photographing somebody or whatever, because, I have that stuff pretty set up. But gosh, outside, I'm constantly aping, because it right away tells you if you have a problem, and there's no sense constantly shooting and committing the same error. So
thank goodness we have digital photography, because you take a step back in time and go back to color slides, man. It's like, oh my God, you just,
the worst was submissions. I used to have it down. I would haul ass out of my house with a FedEx package, and I knew exactly how many minutes it was down to the convenience store where the drop-off box was. I hated it. And then getting the slides back and having to put them back. I'm a disorganized person, and I just love making digital submissions. They're so easy.
So much easier.
Yeah.
I had
Let's
two.
talk. Go ahead.
Just touching back on that, I had a photographer or a professor in college, and there was two things, like all the lessons and all the tutorials and stuff didn't really resonate, but two things he said to me, I'll always remember. He's like, when you get into the field, you're going to take every job you can get, because you'll learn something new from each one. And then the next one was, you have to learn all the rules before you break them. So that always comes back into my head when I see somebody inexperienced or using too much editing and filters to make up for lack of the basics of a photo. And I always tell them, I'm like, you got to learn all the rules before you can break them. And that always just kind of like pops back in my head every once in a while when I have conversations like this with people.
Yeah, no, that's so true. But I'll tell you too, one of the great things, and listen, I'm not a brilliant guy I'm not a technically savvy guy at all. I've learned stuff through asking friends, and I've learned stuff through internet tutorials. And I want to tell you, there's so much information. There are a lot of yahoos out there who want to make a name for themselves, and they're terrible. They shouldn't be allowed to have anything on YouTube. But there are wonderful, wonderful resources. And for me, I just can't read something in a book and then go to my computer and start trying it. But you go look at tutorials all the time. I watch tutorials all the time. Spare time, I'm watching because I want to find out. And if I don't know how to do something, I want to do it, because I do not want to be in a position. I made up my mind about this quite a long time ago, especially when I was so intimidated when digital first started. I was so intimidated, and I still remember shooting a bunch of stuff and looking at my limited menu, and I go, gosh, format. I wonder what that does. Lost all my pictures on that card.
Oh, no.
Yeah, pretty funny. But, well, I did a smart thing, which was I said, okay, I'm not going to shoot anything business related with digital. I'm going to shoot nothing but fun stuff until I can understand it and get used to it. But anyway, so, there's so much out there, but I did not want to be limited in what I could accomplish. So if I have an idea in my head, for instance, like my portrait that you used on the banner there of my camo face, I ended up having a hair clipper. Believe it or not, I can cut my own hair. I had one of those plastic clippers fell off mid-stroke in the back.
Oh, no.
I had this runway. Yeah. And So I said, well, I always wanted to do this one shot where I wanted to see if I could get a camo pattern to look like a tattoo. So I ended up shooting mossy oak shirt that I had, shot that, brought it in, and then ended up doing all these experiments, and so it gave me the opportunity. I had to pretty much shave my head. so you know, but anyway, so just, I mean, if you have kind of ideas in your head, like I'm walking along, something will pop in my head, oh, that'd be a cool idea. You know, it's okay, how do you get there? And only by having a bunch of tools in your kit are you able to
understanding those tools.
Yeah, and in Photoshop, like they say, there are 5 ways to do everything. And so, but yeah, so just the more you know, the better off you're going to be. So
going back to what Jess said, you know, the old cliche that I go back to is photography is understanding the rules, and art is understanding how to break them.
That's a great, yeah, that's the way to say it. I mean, ultimately, that's the whole thing. It's like, you know, talk about. I mean, I see. I mean, even I do it a lot. I look at. There's so many good guys in this industry, and I'll you know, they have awesome eyes, and you look at a shot and say, wow, they use a wide angle lens so well, and say, gosh, I wonder what lens they have. And oh, okay. Oh, he's using a prime, super fast prime 35 millimeter. I got to get that. Well, I can get that and I can shoot, but it's never going to be looking like that guy's work, because I see things differently. Sorry about that. I'm incapable of. I turned that darn thing down yesterday. Just of this.
Whoever's calling Bill right now, stop.
Yeah, but
unless you're hiring him.
But I mean, it's amazing. It's like music. You have only so many chords in music, and yet think of all the different artists, and think of how much time rock and roll, for instance, has been around, and how many different sounds there. It blows my mind. But it's photography the same way. I mean, hell, if I could grow my hair and have a red bandana and I could shoot like Lee Jones.
It's really interesting that this comes up, because when we talk to elite photographers that have been doing it for a long time, the same topics come up, and these are common denominators between everyone. So it's just interesting how everyone shoots differently. We're all different people. We all see the world differently through our lens. Yet at the same time, there are certain common denominators that always come up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
And art, music, painting, photography, it's all art. And when you start thinking about it the same way, and how you develop something into making something beautiful, then really it's just art.
Yeah. No, it's when you see other people's work that inspire you. And listen, that's one of the great things about social media. One of the few things I actually like about social media, but you see a lot of great work, and you go, wow, that's something I never thought of. And it's not like you're trying to copy, but what I always say is, okay, how can I use that bring that into my skill set, and maybe have that as an option, a look or whatever, but make it my own look. And so, like the photographer probably who over the last, I don't know, since digital photography, I guess, that has been sort of my inspiration, a guy named Joel Grimes. Phenomenal photographer. He doesn't do hunting and fishing stuff, but his loss. But he is phenomenal. I mean, his look is actually been copied by a lot of people, and but the free light look, the artificial light and everything, and he's really gritty. Does a lot of sports and personalities, but he also does a lot of fashion work and stuff like that. And his skill with lighting is just shockingly good. And so stuff like that. And so actually, that was the only time I ever took any class or anything in photography. I went to a workshop because I just wanted to sort of get an idea about it. And my stuff was terrible when I first started doing he does a lot of composites and everything, and first started doing that, and they were terrible. But I at least had an idea about what I needed to do, and I was inspired by him, and I sort of ended up making it my own. And so, but yeah, so you look at people's work, you go, wow, that's great, and you try to glean something out of it that ultimately, you're not going to copy him, but you're going to sort of make it. It's inevitable you're going to make it your own, because your eye and your mind, how your mind works, how you see the world is so different than the next guy. I mean, how you can have two guys side by side. I used to marvel at this. A buddy, Gary Kramer, and I we'd go sometimes and photograph ducks in South Dakota or elk in Canada or something, and we'd end up, it's just so awesome. We were having a great time. We'd be side by side hiding in a marsh, and our pictures look completely different. And we're still using big lenses, and I mean, we're using pretty much the same type of gear. It's weird.
That's the beauty. I think that's the beauty of it, that, even there's so much, I'm just going to say it. Okay. It is what it is. There's so much copycatting going on right now in social media. I get frustrated with, sometimes I'll text Jess and just be like, oh my God, this is pissing me off. People are copying. Even if someone copies something that you do, or Lee or whoever, it's like, that pisses me off, because they don't respect someone else's work. And they respect it enough to copy it, yet they don't respect it enough to create their own look and try to copy someone and become a professional that way. Yet at the same time, when we break it down, we all have people that have inspired us over time. I would suggest people go and look outside the box. I think we brought this up last week with a Heartland bow hunter. Go look outside the box. Man, I'll tell you right now, my inspiration comes from Annie Leibovitz, the famous Rolling Stone magazine photographer. And when you read about her work, she talks about her favorite portraitures coming from situations that she wasn't even really trying. They were spontaneous or serendipitous, and because she captured a moment that you can never recreate. So when you do that, then all of a sudden no one can copy that. It's going to look like it's set up, because when you capture spontaneity at the right moment and you're ready for it, there's no way to copy that. You can color correct it and do all that stuff you want, but original art is original art.
Don't you have those? You looking through hundreds and hundreds of pictures from a shoot, and you see one picture. For instance, I'm shooting tight, and all of a sudden I have one that's wide angle, and then that's it. It's only one. You didn't
even know it was. You don't remember it was there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it goes, wow, that's the one. That's the one I like the best. And I said, gosh, why don't I shoot like that more? But so much of the time, like you said, it's just this one little moment, and something grabbed your attention. You did it, and then you moved on. And no, I agree. I say I don't have any problem. I don't know what my style honestly is. The whole.
It's badass is what it is.
I feel like the least.
I love your photography.
It's a badass photo.
There's badass.
Well, that is badass. That's my pop.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's my dad. He was 93 there. He's 95 now. It's coming out this summer. I'm thinking about doing the Marlboro Man with him. You can get anyone to look badass if you put reflective sunglasses on them.
That's why I have all aviator sunglasses, because I feel like it makes me look like sheriff.
And then you say, don't. I say, don't smile. and it was funny because I had this idea so the year before I just borrowed a friend's fedora and cheap sunglasses, and then I ironed one of his white T-shirts and put a jacket on him, and I had him sort of look like a Vegas mob boss, and so that kind of inspired the Harley look the next year. So I went and bought all this Harley paraphernalia, and I didn't have a money, and so literally an hour before this, I was going to photograph my dad. We were having lunch with a friend of mine, and my friend said, "Hey, do you mind if I bring my granddaughter?" I said, "No, that'd be great." And she ended up bringing a friend, and we were saying what we were going to do. And this 26-year-old woman, or 24, whatever she was, she said, "Oh, I have a Harley," because I couldn't find one. I was either going to I wanted them either on a Harley or on a Vespa to make it just look funny as hell, and dressed up. a Harley guy in a Vespa. And so we ended up, she drove it in to my shop and drove it down. Where do you want it? Right there. Perfect. And it was awesome. And so, yeah, had my dad do his modeling, and and then took that's my dog Annie over there. Have to always bring her in. But took one side of a street from one little town in Montana, and the other side of the streets from another town, and then just did my composite work. So, but then put tattoos all over my dad, and
that's awesome.
It's fun.
It reminds me of one of my favorite movies, not only for the storyline, but from a post-production value, is The Book of Eli. Have you seen that movie?
No, I was afraid you were going to say Every Which Way But Loose, and I thought, really?
But that
sort of reminds me of it.
It does. It does.
Will Smith and Morgan Freeman, is that?
So no.
Book of Eli? No, that's Denzel Washington.
Denzel Washington.
Yeah,
it's been a while since I watched that.
That's really one of my favorite movies, and it's very inspiring for me from a cinematography perspective and a post-production value, because it's so manipulated, but it has that same look, or Lee Cho's look to it. If you ever get a chance, watch that movie. It's pretty incredible. But all these things that we're talking about are highly related to cinematography too, because we're shooting the same cameras. I mean, digital cameras have turned into movie cinematography cameras and the like. So all these values can be applied to video as well. So I'm always looking, the better photographer you are, the better cinematographer you are, in my opinion. Do you shoot video, Bill, at all?
It's terrible. I love it. I think I told you, I was looking at emailed you. I was looking at your work on your website, and I love movies. I'm a huge movie fan, and I love it for the cinematography. And I mean, I remember when I first saw The King's Speech with Colin Firth and Jeffrey, whatever his can't remember his last name. Anyway, but his King's Speech just blew me out of the water. It was because there was a lot of scenes where there were no dialogue because the king was a stutterer. But to show the anguish, they ended up having wide angle and just shoved in his face, but there was so little distortion, and there was such a great depth of field. But it ended up really capturing his angst and the torment he went through being a stutterer and all of a sudden being shoved on the world stage. And so, when I see stuff like that, it just, that just makes me so inspired. But I was looking at your stuff and like the editing, I think it was your Colorado duck hunt or something, where you're the music and the beat, and you have each scene goes to the beat, and then about, I don't know, probably 10 seconds in, you end up going with, then you go every other beat, you change the scene, and it's just tight editing, and I love tight editing. And so I'd love to, if I were younger, I think I would probably do a lot of video work. Frankly, I just don't want to get involved with all the more crap I have to buy. I mean, I already have way too much stuff. And also, I'm doing a lot more. I'm doing a lot more stuff with artificial lighting, and so that is sort of that's sort of where my sort of attention is more and more, is blending in artificial with daylight, and then doing more studio work. And so I'm still exploring that a lot. And so maybe, who knows, maybe at some point, but I do stuff like, video, house wren singing, and my dog doing her stupid stuff. And, it's just fun stuff.
It's still all the same. My cousin.
The phone, I love it. I love the phone video. It's great. But
it's all the same thing. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. I just say I'm just too lazy to learn all that stuff right now, but I admire it so much. And I look at your videos and stuff and go, holy smoke. The videographers have the opportunity, just from being able to continue a scene, to where you see such cool stuff. You capture things that, still photograph, you're always looking for that one particular moment. But one of the things that I'll be doing in my camera back, sometimes I'll say, which picture do I like the best? Or I'll be motoring through and seeing and I have this mini movie, but a mini
it's like
movie.
a time lapse.
Cool. That's so cool, that one picture, and then I'll go back to it and I'll look at them individually, and they don't look any cool. One doesn't look any more interesting, but that motion of going from one to another rapidly ends up being something that really draws my attention. So that's where video. I'm sure at some point I'll get into it, but
it's the same thing. I mean, what you're seeing there when you roll through your dial and roll through those photos, that's a time lapse that you just created on your camera. And it's, I mean, photography and cinematography are the same thing. My cousin was here 2 days ago. He's a set director in Hollywood. He's done some big time films, and he's done a lot of big time sitcom shows in Hollywood that we'd all recognize. But we were sitting by the pool the other day talking about, you know, what's most important when you come onto a set. What are the most important things, you know, in the crew, in your within your team that help create what you're trying to achieve? And he said the art director, the cinematographer, and the lighting people. Those three people are the only three people you need on a set to make something perfect. And the cinematographer has the most power because he knows once you get the art design set and then the light set, then he knows or she knows how to set their camera to achieve the perfect scene. And I thought it was interesting because in photography, it's the same thing. It's the art design, it's the lighting, and then it's the photographer. Same deal.
No, you're right. You're right. But that's the fun thing too. I mean, it's all about that collaboration. That's why I love photo shoots where, you know, almost the more the merrier. You can get too many cooks in the kitchen. But it's like when I'm on a photo shoot and let's say there might be one company guy or gal there, and maybe they're not really interjecting that much, but I'll have models sometimes who are, you know, they're way into it. They love the subject matter, and I always tell them, I said, listen, if you have an idea, if you think something's cool, let me know, because I tend to get tunnel vision. I think we all do. You get an idea in your head and you beat it to death. But when somebody who that world is all important to him or her, and they come up with an idea and say, I think it'd be really cool if you did this, and they go, you know, I'm all ears for that stuff. But that's why I love the collaboration. When you get a lot of stuff where just like, that's really nice, thanks. Not gonna work, but and you have to sort of act like it was a great idea, but you just can't do it right now. But no, but really, that's the collaboration. That really is the fun part. I love. I have really good buddies, Walt Gabbard and Fafa Shelby, who work for Mossy Oak, and we talk to each other, and we always get excited talking about the creative process. And I think that's what's cool about your show. You know, you get to talk shop, and I think every creative person loves that because you kind of feed off of each other's enthusiasm, and you feed off of each other's creativity. I remember sort of like the turning point. One of the turning points in my career is that you end up having. I was photographing for Fred Zink, and we were shooting a bunch of AV and X decoys and calls and everything. And I had a bad time the week before, and I was super low on sleep. And you know, things were okay lighting wise, but they weren't great. It was the shotgun approach stuff that I hate. You know, where you have to always come up with the ideas and you know, but I was just sort of in my own little world. And he called me into his office, and we've been friends for a long time. He said, you know, I don't know if you know this, but you are like radiating negativity. It just shocked me.
Wow.
Kidding. And I said, I don't want to be that guy. And I remember calling him up later, and first of all telling him thank you so much, but also calling him up later and going, wow, thank you so much. You know, you really have to. The set revolves around you, because you know there are all these people helping you out and everything, but you're the photographer, you're the director, you're pretty much everything. And you know, you don't have to be unrealistically happy like you had too much coffee or something, or Red Bull or something, but you have to. You want to keep it going, and you want to have a good vibe going. And you know, ever since that day, it's been like, boy, and it was just something that got pointed out to me, and I said, you know, I don't want to be that person, number one, but that's no way to get good material. So, you know, the main thing is you have to have fun. You have to have people who are having fun that you're photographing, and you all are trying to have this really good energy, and you don't get that with. I've seen some pictures where you see a guy sitting on a tree stand, and he's like this, and he's like hating that photographer. That photographer has not been very fun to him. So that's all part of it. So and also along with that is getting your models and whatever. You as a photographer have to be sort of not badgering, but I get people crap all the time on set. I want them to be giving me crap. I like it's all the male bonding on just when you always see guys you think, why are you guys fighting? I said, no, we're not. We're having fun. So you got to tease people, and you got to, you work with kids. You got to be sort of outrageous and get them to smile and be more natural. And it's all part of getting a good picture too. So it's kind of interesting how it all works out. But anyway, so as a photographer, you have to set the tone, or you do set the tone. And whether you know it or not, you have to be very conscious about what you're doing. I mean, typically I'm excited about what I'm doing, so that's going to translate into it. But you've been on some hunts and whatever where they lag and like nothing's going right, and everyone's like, "God, that's good, getting some good stuff." And I always go, "Well, it's all adding up." And that's true when you're down there, you're photographing for 5 days. It is a accumulation. That's the way you have to look at it. It's okay. I'm really not getting a lot of stuff here, but I'm going to probably end up with a few. But
eventually,
yeah. Well, see, there's another thing. It's like, why in our industry do people think that it's cool that everyone looks like their best friend just died, or they just shot their dog, or whatever, when they're standing next to this gigantic buck or a bull elk or limit of ducks? You'd think they'd be happy, right? So why is it that fishermen are always holding up stuff and smiling like crazy and always looking like they have a good time, and hunters are like this? Because
that's why
somehow to be happy, to look happy over getting something, means that they don't do it every day. And somehow that reflects poorly on their skills or something. That's one of the things that just kills me about our business, the hunting side of it, is that people seem like they have to be so extreme all the time. And you don't.
Loosen up.
Most of us wouldn't do it because ultimately we're supposed to be having fun, right? So I look at the job, whether it's the subject matter we have or the process of photography or videography. If you're not having fun, get out of it and do another job, but you should be having fun. I mean, and it is fun. So,
man, if they had a camera following us around half the time, it would just be like goofballs and joking the whole time. People think we never take anything seriously.
That's why I like to walk away and become a fly on the wall and shoot it from that perspective, because if everyone knows you're snapping shots, then all of a sudden, like you said, they turn into these badasses, and they stoic, yeah, and you get the same look, and it becomes boring. And I always say, in like right after the rut, or like in mid-October, or even getting towards late October, when the deer aren't moving as much, you always start seeing photos on social media of people's bows and their nocks and their hands and their broadheads, and it's like, well, the deer aren't moving today, and then all of a sudden around November the 4th it goes kaboom, and everybody's killing big bucks, and everybody goes stoic again.
That's true. No, anyway, but no, I mean, the whole thing is sort of like say, be serious about your craft. So be serious about learning photography or videography, and learning how to deal with people, because that's a lot of it, learning how to deal with time management, all that. But don't take yourself seriously. And that's one of the things I just hate about social media and about what our industry's become. It's become so self-centric. And so it's all about the person. I go on someone's site. I mean, go on Instagram sites, people will follow me, and so I'll go check out their site. And maybe some people are every picture they post is of them. It's a selfie. And I go, really? But it's sort of like the personalities. I understand people are drawn personalities. There's some personalities a lot of fun to watch, but the hunting industry is so personality driven. I mean, fishing is too, but it just seems, I don't know why. Maybe I'm more serious about the hunting side of it, or it affects me more. But I hate it that it's about people instead of about being out there and about the game. And I think as soon as you make it more about the people and the personalities, you become less respectful of the game and the land and what really matters to most people, which is the experience. So I don't know. It just But we can all take ourselves too seriously, and
tomorrow morning we're going to wake up and we're going to get on social media, and no one's going to have a selfie.
I've done my job.
You did your job.
Tomorrow.
Congratulations and thank you.
Yeah, really. It's funny.
Well, we're running down here to the end. Is there any, what am I trying to say? Where do you see yourself going? Do you think there'll be a progression, like a big progression, the way you're going to keep moving with your style, or are you going to continue, like, how do you want to continue to stay in the same place, or do you think that you'll evolve?
And how has your business model changed over the years? I mean,
business model's changed a lot, just because I used to be pretty much a stock shooter with some commercial shooting, and that's just not, for some people that works still, but that is not a business model that works for me at all. I mean, I can't afford, let's say, go spend $2,000 going down just to photograph duck hunting in Arkansas, and you get down there and it's raining for 5 days, and there've been 7 inches of rain. The ducks are scattered to kingdom come. You are at the best places you could possibly hope to photograph, and there are no more ducks there than some public lake that gets pounded every day. And so it just doesn't make sense anymore. And plus I want to do things a lot more. I want targeted. I like having more sort of dealing with an end game in mind, instead of just sort of hoping that things are going to work out. I also like getting paid, knowing I'm going to get paid before I travel.
Sure.
But no, I'm trying to do stuff that's so the whole shotgun approach to, I need this subject, I need that subject, like I used to do, and I did very well at it. It doesn't appeal to me as much anymore. I really want to do stuff that involves a little bit more creativity and a little bit more sort of, melding of trying to get more of a style. I branding is something that has been kind of a struggle for me, because I don't know what my style is. I mean, I have no idea. I'm just hoping that organically it comes about and people see it, but and so therefore some people want it. But on the whole, they always say branding. Shoot, you like sea turtles, shoot nothing but sea turtles and shoot them with a wide angle. Put a lot of clarity on it or something. I'm a generalist. I love different subjects. I love photographing almost anything. And so I guess where I hope to be is, I'm like that picture of my dad. I love doing composites. I love doing portraiture type stuff too. I just like things where I'm bringing out personality of people, or showing in a portrait what makes them tick. And so something like that. That was something I went into the shop. This is a local game processing shop. His husband and wife team were awesome, Buzz and Patty. And I asked him, would you mind my doing a portrait? And he said, no, I guess it's okay. So I went one year, photographed their meat locker, and then photographed the individual animals. So because I knew it was going to be this horrible, very distracting elements in the background, I want to be able to control all that. So, and I couldn't get them all at once. So then I went back this past January, and photographed each of them separately on a paper background, and then put them in there. But I was able to move the animals back and forth to see where it wouldn't be conflicting, but to get the idea. So this was my idea. I've always had this idea of borrowing from American Gothic.
Yeah.
Sure.
Are these guys local to Bozeman?
Yeah, they are. They're wonderful. They do a great job.
The Yellowstone crew?
I'm sorry?
Is it, well, I don't want to name them, but Yellowstone Meat Processing?
Yeah, they're wonderful people.
They
and
are.
I've gone to them twice. I butcher all my own game, but when you have a schedule sometimes where you're going to be away for 2 weeks after you've just shot an elk, you can't do that. So
I dropped my antelope off with them last year because I couldn't get it all home, and gosh, it was so good, and they're so nice.
Oh, they are. And Patty, I have one picture too where I just took her face and changed it this big old smile. But I said, hey, Patty, just look over that side, because I wanted to do the American Gothic.
Cool.
But yeah, so it's all fun. So I just see myself, I don't know, I hope I constantly change and learn new things. But like I said, I'd like to get into some drone work a little bit too, even from a still photography side, just trying to get something different. And I think that's what we're all trying to do, is to evolve a little bit. If you're not evolving as an artist, if you think your work's just going to be fine the way it is, and like I said, you might as well get a real job.
So, yeah, you'll dissolve. You'll get bored and you'll dissolve for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for spending your morning with us and kind of like enlightening us a little bit behind the scenes of Bill Buckley. People can find your work at billbuckleyphotography.com, and I think your Instagram handle is just Bill Buckley Photo, right?
That's right. Yeah. Well, no, thanks, guys. This has been a lot of fun. Love talking shop, and I really
anytime.
I hope your show continues. I thought you were scraping the barrel when you contacted me. So,
oh, man, you're at the top of our list, Bill. Thank you so much, man. Like I've said before, I've looked up to your work for a very long time, and like we tell everyone that's had influence in the outdoor industry or any industry for that matter, thank you, because you have been a big influencer in particularly in the waterfowl side of things. So, thank you for everything that you've done, and keep it up, and thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that. You're giving me way too much credit, but I'm just happy to do what I do, and this is fun. So anyway, hope we get to work someday together, and maybe we'll get Coon Foot out there again.
Yeah, let's plan that. We'll meet down in Arkansas and do some weird documentary about Coon Foot.
Sounds good. Okay, guys. Well, thanks a bunch. I really appreciate it. Great
See you, buddy. Thank you.
Take care, Bill.
Well,
awesome.
Yeah, let's what'd you get out of that, Jess? What was your...
You can just tell sometimes when you're talking to people that they're just so knowledgeable in their craft. I mean, it just rattles off their tongues, and you can just tell how much experience and skill he has in the way he speaks about his job. So I mean, it's a little bit inspiring, and I don't know. The last few episodes, I really, after we get off, I'm just like, man, I gotta go take some photos.
Yeah, it makes you want to get out and do things. And, when you, like you said, when you talk to true professionals, you're talking to a true professional. They've been doing things for so long that, I think we talked about this before. You don't have to regurgitate anything. You just talk about your experience, and that comes out as knowledge. So, and Bill Buckley certainly is one of those people. So, yeah, that was fun. And I think next week I'm going to go ahead. We're going to start doing this. We're going to reveal, maybe looking into next week's show, we're going to go to the opposite end of the spectrum and talk to Brandon Feen, a prodigy from Northern California. A lot of you guys, particularly in the waterfowl world, know his work. He just turned 16, but he's been shooting photos since he was 13. He was under-resourced, but he made the best of the resources that he had with the cheap camera equipment that he bought at, I believe, at Costco with lawn mowing money, and he has become a phenomenal young photographer. So we're really looking forward to talking to Brandon next week.
All right.
Don't forget about our YouTube channel.
Yes, you can find all of the past episodes archived on YouTube. So go subscribe to the channel as we update and put the newest episodes on there. You'll be notified, and you can catch them briefly on Facebook afterwards at Facebook.com Latondras Media Collective. So we will see you next week.
Bye, Jess.
Bye, Jake.